Tykkään asua siellä, koska se on lähellä työpaikka. Tot slot zijn mensen de afgelopen jaar veel bewuster geworden over gezonder leven. Allergisch zijn voor mijn zusje is allergisch voor aardbei.
¿Redes sociales?
Yo ya me doy por vencido, para mi país me voy.
Gå där i ett år eller ett och ett halvt. Konstig roll där man liksom inte kom sympati för det där. Men jag tror bara helt andra förutsättningar. Support network som man pratar om liksom runt omkring sig. Så det är jättejobbigt.
Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to study 8 languages. I know when I word it like this it sounds kind of ambitious or like a bit exaggerated, but to me it's going to be an absolutely ordinary day because most of my languages already exist in my daily life. Today we will only have to add 3 more, which are Spanish, French and Russian. And I just hope that this video can give you some insights into how you can integrate language learning in your daily life, because there is always some kind of activities you can do to keep that language alive. So currently I actually focus on 5 of my languages. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory except for one, which is German. Recently my life is like 70% in German. Last week I was in Vienna. I spent there 5 days. I communicate in German the whole time, and I'm reading a German novel that I'm going to finish and introduce you today. Honestly, I believe that Spanish and French aren't really highlights of my language learning routine because my studies are in Italian, so I get daily exposure to super advanced Italian, mostly humanities. So I would never say that my French and Spanish deteriorate, but sometimes I do miss actively working on them. But I also don't want to stop studying German because currently German is like more of a favorite, you know, but you never get motivation unless you start doing things. So maybe if I just work on something else, I would like it more than German. One thing I can tell you is that if you wake up early enough, you have 2 days and 24 hours. For example, today I woke up at 7 and I studied to finish in Dutch. I basically revised what I learned last night right before going to sleep. Within 24 hours, even less, I learned a new topic and I revised it. So I basically completed this learning cycle. And my brain feels like it's 2 different days because practically it's 2 different days. And I'm not sure about the context of today, but on a normal day where I won't be filming this video, I would add another study session in the evening. So basically 1 in the morning, 1 at night, which is like you're going to study your target language twice in a day. And I believe most of you aren't going to study 8 languages. I also don't study 8 languages in a day, as I said. So right now, before heading to a little coffee and reading break, I will be practicing one of the languages that I kind of ghosted recently. Namely, we're going to practice a little bit Spanish before leaving. That being said, those languages aren't completely absent in my life. Like, I might tell you that I spent 5 days in Vienna, spoke German the whole time, but what I don't mention is I also met a Russian follower, had a Russian conversation for 3 hours. That's also something, but I don't say that. Being humble is so difficult. Plus, all my social media accounts practically speak as many languages as I do. There has never been a point where I completely forget a language or have no contact with that language.
Today, to easily integrate Spanish into my routine, I'll be watching some videos, and I'm also going to introduce a tool that's going to make it way easier and way more practical for you. I think you all already know that watching content in your target language is a really useful exercise, and it's something that you have to do at every level. But sometimes you may experience issues like not being able to find content for your level or not being able to learn out of this content. And this platform that we're going to use today is going to solve practically all of your issues. Today we're going to study Spanish on FluentU. And if we just go to my settings here, we can choose a language because Spanish is not the only language I have. For example, here I have it on Spanish, but you can basically go and find all these languages. They even have English for Spanish speakers, Portuguese speakers, Italian speakers, Russian speakers, and also for other speakers that I can't read right now. But today we will stick to Spanish and we will set a language level as advanced. And when you save the changes and go to your homepage, there is an entire library curated for you. Today we're going to watch this short Spanish video about a cafe in Vienna that I visited last year and that I would recommend you to visit if you ever be around Belvedere. So before going there or after going there, you can just visit this cafe because it has an interesting story and we're going to find it out right now.
En esta cafetería se puede disfrutar de un café bien servido en históricas cabinas de ascensor estilo Art Nouveau.
Esta es una cabina de 1906. Aún se usaba con ascensorista.
And if you don't understand something, for example, here I don't know the word regenta. So if you just click on it, you can see the meaning. And also you're going to get example sentences, which is essential while learning vocabulary. Each time you would like to revise the sentence, it will actually bring you to a sentence from the content where you're learning from. Another good thing about this is that it doesn't only let you passively consume content, but rather helps you to practice the vocabulary. So now we're going to make this quiz, which will slowly introduce you to the vocabulary from the video and then help you build sentences. So here, antiguos que sigan en uso. We have to say elevators.
Antiguos ascensores que siguen en uso.
So we have to write ascensores. And now you're going to discover how to actually build the sentence. Antiguos ascensores que siguen en uso. And also, if you want, you can import your own videos from YouTube or Netflix using their Chrome extension, so whenever you watch something with subtitles, you can actually study them on FluentU. But while doing this, you can also learn words, and then they will start building up sentences. And you can always just go and revise your vocabulary. You can also save them somewhere else. You can write them on your notebook. If you enjoy learning languages with videos and would like to try out FluentU, please check the link that I'm going to put in the description of this video, which is going to give you a discount. And you can also start learning with FluentU.
If you ask me why I just suddenly changed the environment, because I just felt so overstimulated and I don't know. I have like 20 pages, which is probably going to take me like 10 minutes. I was listening to some podcasts in Russian. I first listened to the episode from Artyom in which he told about his trip to Kavkaz. And now I was listening to something more political about Central Asia. Let's see what my Russian YouTube has to offer.
Я вот с какими-то белорусскими друзьями обсуждала, мне кажется, ощущение, что сильно вкладываться в место, возможно, нет смысла. Нигде тебе не пригодится, кроме как в этой стране. Но да, такие конфликты тоже имеются.
So now I'm back in my room and I'm going to share my thoughts about this book that I just finished reading today. Actually, it took me like 2 weeks to read this. It's not that much of a difficult book, but as I said, I was traveling last week, so I didn't really have time to read a book. I'm going to focus more on linguistic aspect because I read this in German. We have an international bookstore here in Milan and they sell a lot of books in French, Spanish and German. So sometimes I just buy books in different languages, but actually so far I have never bought any German books because I mostly had like some old German books that I brought with me from Istanbul. But I always had some kind of difficulty reading them. So this time I just tried to go for a bestseller, and actually from a linguistic point of view I really enjoyed reading this. If you are like B2, C1, I think you will also have a similar experience. For B2 learners, maybe sometimes you will have little confusions, maybe some words won't be clear, but for C1 learners, if you have more or less the same German level as me, if you are preparing for like TELC or any kind of C1 exam, we probably have like a really similar German level. I think you will enjoy reading this. You won't be like, oh, what are they talking about? I understand nothing, I'm completely lost. So as a C1 German learner, I wouldn't say this has a lot of unknown words. I only underlined some phrases which I found interesting and which I will just write in a document in the upcoming weeks. In einer heruntergekommenen Kleinstadt. Mit gerunzelter Stirn. Still und beständig arbeitete auf ein Ziel. Die Tasse Kaffee und füllte sie bis zum Rand. Diesen tadellosen Zustand zu erhalten, verdrängte ihre Schuldgefühle. Tragischerweise verschlechterte sich ihr Gesundheitszustand mit Fortschreiten der Schwangerschaft. These kind of extremely random things that I will all write down in a document. So at the end, this book was pretty smooth, and it felt like I was reading something in English or in French. So I'll be probably buying more bestsellers in German, and my next book that I will start read is probably going to be Spanish, because I, for some reason, don't really like consuming audio content in Spanish.
I don't know. I'd probably enjoy focusing on Russian more because I also attribute more value to speaking native likely Russian, whereas Spanish for me would be more interesting. Like if I can read some articles in Spanish, this would be way more interesting than watching a Netflix story in Spanish. So now let's look at our challenge a little bit. Well, so far I've studied everything except for Italian, which is not the end of the world because right now I will have to study, so we will compensate that. But I still want to go back to some languages, especially Swedish, because I normally actively study Swedish, and today I only listen to some Swedish podcasts while doing my makeup for like 20 minutes. So that literally doesn't count. Like 20 minutes of Swedish podcast is not what we were expecting today. We will go back to Swedish, we will study Swedish decently. And since I still have time, I'll probably pick up one or two things as well, but I don't know. As I said, it's not like the most difficult thing, and practice is actually easier than we imagine. Like you can just listen to something simple, or you can revise something you've studied before. Another thing I thought was listening to my audio recordings that I made for Dutch and Finnish earlier, but honestly I'm not interested in studying any more Dutch or Swedish because
Mulla on keittiö, kylpyhuone ja olohuone. Onko sinun asunto iso?
I love how this doesn't have any kind of emotions like onko sinun asunto iso? Is your apartment big? I love this.
Gli elementi dell'amministrazione familiare quali individui sono schiavi per natura e quali padroni per natura? Quali caratteristiche contraddistinguono gli schiavi e i padroni per natura? Che ne so io? Che cosa è la schiavitù? Come definisce la nozione di schiavo Aristotele? Non so. For example, right now I have political philosophy, and what I'm doing right now is basically just copying the materials on my Notion, because I first have to verbally understand what's happening. Voglio essere mosso da ragioni, da proposte consapevoli, che siano proprio i miei e non da cause che mi condizionano. Questa è la libertà positiva. Quindi la libertà negativa... So I just spent like 45 minutes learning about positive and negative liberty. And our professor just put an article in English for us to read, and it's pretty long, and guess which language is not in any way relevant today. Exactly. So I thought it would be a more logical idea to learn about this topic, because I can't say that I entirely understood the concept. Like, to me it doesn't make any sense if I have to be honest. So I want to listen to about this topic in French and in Spanish, because I don't want to entirely change the language system in my head. I just want to stay in the same family but understand the topic better. And since I'm more of an auditory and visual learner, we will try out videos. So let's start with Spanish, because still languages are a little bit closer. So now we will learn about positive and negative liberty in Spanish, or about Aristotle in general. Libertad positiva y negativa. If you're watching my videos regularly, I believe at this point you have separate YouTube accounts for every language you're learning, because if you don't, what are you doing? Like, I literally have I don't know how many YouTube accounts. The French have so high quality videos when it comes to such things. None of these videos inspire me, if I have to be honest.
Propias virtudes, y Aristóteles las llama virtudes dianoéticas. Hablemos primero de las virtudes éticas. Hable a seguir actuando en esa misma línea, de modo cada vez adultos lo hacemos sin pensar siquiera.
Se stai pensando di parlare con uno psicologo online, come ti senti?
Y así con el resto de las virtudes éticas. Se adquieren por medio de pues la de ser, nos dice Aristóteles, el término medio entre dos extremos.
I watched two videos in Spanish about the topic, and then I looked at my library and I was lucky enough to find this book called La Philosophie, which has a section about politics. Thanks God I know French, so I can read such books. So right now I'll prepare a drink, preferably hot chocolate, because also I have some kind of déclin in my mood. I start feeling a bit anxious and overwhelmed, if I have to be honest. It has nothing to do with the fact that I have to study, I have to this and that. It's just like a general feeling. I feel overstimulated once again. Okay. I don't remember bringing this book with me, but probably I did just because I had the class this semester. I thought I only had the book about the Russian Revolution. It's there, but this one, I completely forgot about this.
It's 11 p.m. and we're still missing one thing, and that's, as you can imagine, Swedish. I can't say I studied no Swedish today, but still, since I'm still in the learning phase, I want to do some actual practice, so I will try to practice a little bit of Swedish speaking, and to prevent learning something new, I will just speak about the topic I learned last week. I follow this podcast that talks about a new topic every week, and every day they just post new episodes.
I'm here to listen or help you sort through your thoughts.
Nej. Kan du prata svenska?
Absolut. Kan jag hjälpa dig då?
Alltså, jag vill öva på nya ord som jag lärde mig.
Nationalitet. Det kan tyda på en viss grad av segregation även inom grupper med utländsk bakgrund.
Alltså, till exempel, du kan bryta ner problemet om du berättar över detaljen eller analyserar ett ämne.
Där människor med olika bakgrunder och levnadsvillkor inte får samma möjligheter. Vill du kanske prata mer om hur detta kan påverka samhället? Eller hur man kan arbeta för att minska segregation? Varför tycker du att det finns större segregation i Sverige än i Norge eller Danmark? Jag vill gärna hjälpa dig. Alltså, det är inte som vad du tycker. Det var inte så svårt att öva på 8 språk. Jag vaknade ganska tidigt och jag lärde mig finska och...
Okay guys, the challenge is over. So now it's time to see what I've done today. Well, today I studied Finnish for an hour. It was basically my daily Finnish class. And also revised a bit from yesterday. Then I studied Dutch for an hour again. 45 minutes of this was studying and 15 minutes was basically a podcast I listened to while preparing breakfast. I studied Spanish for 75 minutes. It was basically some studying and also some listening. I studied Swedish for 40 minutes. It was a podcast and a speaking practice. I studied German for 90 minutes because I was reading this German book. Won't happen again. I studied French for 75 minutes. This includes podcasts and reading. I studied Russian for 65 minutes. All of this is YouTube, both series and unseries content. And I studied Italian for 45 minutes, which is all political philosophy. What does this make at the end? So, that's what I did. 8.5 hours of studying. Not bad. Really good. Like, I don't feel like I've studied that much today. So I think the message I want to give you through this video is that you probably always have time to practice languages. And the result that you're going to get is always going to be proportional to the amount of effort that you put into this. So if I manage to practice 8 languages for 8.5 hours, maybe not in the most perfect way, maybe not each one of them equally, I mean, it shows that you can also find some time to practice your target language. Small work which adds up at the end is more important than deciding one day that you're going to study for 10 hours and then never studying that language again. Okay guys, it's just too late for me. Now I'm going to sleep and have a good rest of your day. Bye!